We talking about sports, get ball.
What it do, baby? Yeah.
Welcome back to another edition of the number one podcast in your headphones, Prem Brulee. I am your host, Premal. We want to do a special NFL Draft preview edition of Prem Brulee with Thomas Lewis of High Floor, who recently wrapped up his NFL Draft prospect scouting. And we're going to do a special NFL Draft edition. Thomas, you ready for this?
I couldn't be more excited to be here or to be doing this with a fellow Superior Coke drinker.
Amen. Amen. Superior Coke drinkers unite.
It's just professional taste buds. That's all I could say.
So this episode is going to be heavy on the Who You Got section, so we can pick his brain on some last-minute burning questions that were sent in by you number one podcast listeners. So stay tuned for that. But before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of the Prem Brulee podcast is brought to you by Urban Exterior Co. For all your roofing, siding, and gutter needs, please visit urbanexteriorco.com. That's urbanexteriorco.com. The number one roofing, siding, and gutter company for the number one podcast in your headphones. You love to see it.
There isn't a more, I guess, boring industry than roofing. And I went to this guy's website, and these are some cool roofs. Like, this is like it's actually, I'm looking at it and I'm like, do these matter? And I was like, this is kind of sick. Like, it's like Julie and I are in the, we want to build a house and we want to build an A-frame, which is like 90% roof. And I'm like, I wish this guy wasn't in Ohio. Like,
you're destined to move here anyway, so
it's true. It's significantly cheaper. I will definitely be going with Urban Exterior to get my A-frame done, considering it's just 90% roof.
Amen. You love to see it. All right, without further ado, let's get going on this NFL Draft edition, Thomas. So first off, let's go with Yafam or Nam. I want to do a little draft intro to set the scene here. Give a little, give the number one podcast listeners a couple facts heading into the draft this coming week. So obviously, everybody by now knows the top five is the Jags, Jets, Niners, Falcons, and Bengals. The draft takes place Thursday through Saturday. Round 1's Thursday, 2 and 3 is Friday, and the rest is on Saturday. The Eagles have the most picks. They have 11 picks in this year's draft. A lot of teams are tied for second with 10 picks. But I wanted to talk about the best position teams in the draft. They appear to be the Dolphins, who have 8 picks, including 2 in the first round, 4 in the top 50, and 5 in the top 81. The other team, best pretty well positioned, is the New York Jets, who have 10 picks. That includes 2 in the first round and 5 in the top 86. As for the least picks, the Seahawks have just 3 picks in this year's draft, a second rounder, a fourth rounder, and a seventh rounder. So I guess Seattle, this isn't a big weekend for Seahawks fans. And worth noting, teams with multiple first round picks, if you're just a first round fan, that would be the Jets, Dolphins, Jaguars, and Ravens. The Ravens picked up the 31st pick by exchanging with the Chiefs. The Chiefs got themselves a left tackle to protect Patrick Mahomes and Zeus Brown, Orlando Brown. So seems right now to work out for both teams here. So that setting the scene with all of that, I wanted to give you a couple scenarios, Thomas. So
okay,
Yafam or nah, the Niners have narrowed down their third overall pick reportedly to Mac Jones and Trey Lance. Yafam or nah, you buying it? The Vegas odds were favoring Fields up until very recently, and now they have tilted big time over to Mac Jones.
I can't buy this, honestly, so this is a nah for me. Mostly, I actually like Mac Jones more than most people like Mac Jones, and I'm going to throw a name out that no one ever gets compared to this guy, but this is who I think Mac Jones could be Kurt Warner-esque in the way that he delivers the ball around the field, so he could be really good, but there's nothing.
Hopefully he's Kurt Warner-esque in the fact that he doesn't get drafted.
Yeah, especially not at 3. But there is nothing that Trey Lance offers that Justin Fields doesn't, and doesn't do it better. Right. I think Shanahan has earned my trust as a quarterback guy, so if he takes Jones or Lance, I'll have to go back and see what I was missing, because to me, I don't even know what happened to Fields' stock. He was at one point we were talking about, if Miami got number 2, would they have taken Justin Fields? And now all of a sudden we're saying San Francisco has 3. Maybe they won't take Justin Fields. He's done crazy. Nothing. Yeah, he's done nothing. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence was solidified at 1. I can kind of see how Zach Wilson got his way to 2. I don't see what made Justin Fields fall past 3, and I don't know if it's media hype or if this is true, but we'll see on Thursday.
Yeah, it is quite the mystery. Obviously, being in the hub of pro Justin Fields here in Columbus, Ohio. It's very close to our hearts. So Kyle Shanahan will have lost my trust if he blows this pick on Thursday. I can tell you that. But that's a nice precursor because I know out of our number 1 podcast listeners submitted questions, there were a few about Justin Fields. So more on that later.
I'm excited. I'm a big Fields guy.
We love to hear it. This is a safe space for Justin Fields fanatics here.
Justin Fields, friend of the program.
Yes, he has to be a number 1 podcast listener, honorary or not. I'd like to think he listens, but if not, we got you, Justin. Yeah, fam or nah to 5 QBs being taken in the top 10.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with yeah. I do think that the top 3 are a lock. We know it's Lawrence, Wilson, and X. Right. I think that maybe on an outside shot, the Falcons take Fields if he falls. And then I do think the 2 most likely teams, actually there's 3 teams I think are really likely to trade down. It's Detroit, Carolina, and Denver. And I think that whatever team trades, say Carolina trades down, that once the 4th quarterback goes, there's 1 left. Yep. And I think that because 3 of those teams in a row are willing to trade down, makes it kind of like a rush. I would actually say yeah to that. I think that happens.
I love that. I think that'd be very intriguing. In all those teams that don't need a quarterback, all of a sudden you get some really good value picks in the top 10, guys that you didn't think were going to be there. So it'd be exciting all around.
I didn't even when I was doing my mock, I didn't even put 5 quarterbacks in the top 10 just because I try not to go 2 out there on my trades and stuff like that. But I do think that if I have the Patriots trading up to 8 to take Trey Lance, I do think if that happens, someone panic calls the Broncos or Cowboys.
That would be very ideal. Although I feel like the Broncos reportedly said they're looking for someone to have a competition with Drew Lock with. So
yeah, they could also if Fields falls, if Fields the guy that falls,
right?
I think definitely 10 go. No way. If Fields is going to be the 5th guy taken, then it's you could mortal lock of the century. There's 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10.
It's going to be a mad rush for sure.
Yeah.
This is a kind of a selfish one, obviously. Being a Cowboys fan, I know they're targeting secondary. So, wanted to get your take. Yeah, fam or not, Patrick Surtain II is the best cornerback in the draft. And after you answer, I want you to give us a quick breakdown. We keep hearing 3 corners at the top of the draft. You have Patrick Surtain II, J.C. Horn, and Caleb Farley has dropped a little. He's looking like late first now, but can you give us a quick breakdown of how these 3 compare?
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick Surtain is the best cornerback in the draft. I just think he does everything a little better. He's almost boring to watch, which you love for a cornerback because he's really like Nnamdi Asomugha, who we all know kind of went to Philadelphia and got exposed because he only played one side of the field. Surtain can play both sides of the field well, but I do think that he's just going to absolutely, if he's going to give up some passes, but he keeps everything in front of him. And that's so valuable to, 3rd and 9, they're not going Surtain's way because he's going to stand 8 yards off the guy and he can make up speed very quickly. So I'm just not worried about him. J.C. Horn is more of a presser. He's got really long, strong arms. I think his RAS, his relative athletic score, was a 10 out of 10. So he's one of those. Yeah, he's one of those guys that athletically, I know you hear it like, oh, he ticks every box, but this guy actually ticks every box. He's more of a risk taker, but he's not more high upside than Surtain, but he just makes splashier plays. Like he's like a better Marcus Peters. You know how every couple weeks Marcus Peters is like has a 70-yard pick six, and you're like, how is this guy not the greatest cornerback of all time? All I see is him do that. It's because he gives up like 100 slants in between, and like that's what J.C. Horn does too. Right. I think that he could be great. I do. I don't think he has a higher ceiling than Surtain, but I do think that he's quite the consolation prize at the second cornerback.
Right.
Caleb Farley is the biggest risk, but you could be getting Richard Sherman out of him, and he literally played wide out. He's still learning to play cornerback. He aggressively goes after the ball, which you don't really see guys do. I think a lot of people would say Xavier Howard's pretty easily a top 5 cornerback, and Caleb Farley easily has top 5 Xavier Howard type skills. And then there's guys like Greg Newsome and Eric Stokes, who out of Northwestern and Georgia respectively, who are great corners, but this is a very odd draft class. It's very, very stacked in some positions and very, very thin in others. So it's curious as to how it'll break out. Like,
appreciate. So I stole this from you because I had asked you about this. Basically, me being a Cowboys fan, unfortunately for my own sanity, but Dan Quinn, new defensive coordinator, loves his cover 3. So Surtain is more of the guy. If you're a Cowboys fan, that's who you want, because J.C. Horn thrives under the press man.
Yeah, even if you're going with, even if you don't take a corner at 10 and you try to trade back up for Caleb Farley, both of those guys are just better fits than J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn thrives in like he's gonna fuck someone up type of thing, and the cover 3 is just basically do not fuck this up. That's the linebackers are basically so head and shoulders more important than everything else in a cover 3 that the cornerback's job is essentially, how do I not fuck this up?
Yep. Which is, just like you said, even more kudos to Patrick Surtain right there, because you said he doesn't really make mistakes on film, so...
Yeah, if he gets beat, something, and it happens in the NFL all the time. Like, I've seen Moss drop balls. Like, sometimes it just, you don't win. You're not perfect. Nobody's a perfect prospect. But Surtain, will he get beat by somebody's faster, he has no safety help? Sure. Of course it's going to happen. But if I had to bet, the aliens invade us and they say, hey, one-on-one, line someone up, who's it going to be, J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain? I'm saying, all right, Patrick Surtain, you got to line up on this alien.
That's the kind of analysis we're looking for here on
the
podcast. Okay, so you had the perfect little lead into this with certain position groups being heavier than others. So I wanted to get your take on Yafam or not to edge or defensive end being the biggest crapshoot position group in this draft.
Yeah, absolutely, I'd say. I don't even think it's close. There's so many edge defenders, and they all bleed together. I think like crapshoot total. I mean, there's just no good linebackers in the NFL anymore. But edge is just like a mess. There's no clear top guy for the first time, and I don't know how many drafts that there hasn't been like a Bosa or an elite pass rusher coming out of it. So it's like, I mean, we've had like one of the Ohio State boys, Chase Young. Even Montez Sweat, like the year before, like these guys were, and Montez Sweat fell because of injuries, but like there's always these elite guys, these Myles Garretts, even the Bradley Chubbs of the world. There's someone going top 10, and you could get, if an edge rusher goes top 10 in this draft, someone fucked up, because none of these guys are worth top 10 picks. But it's a really, really weird class, because the guys at the top really aren't that much further from the guys in the rest of the draft.
So, all that being said, when do you see the first edge going, and who do you think it is? I know you said it's a crapshoot, but who do you have a top tier edge ranking?
I think the highest an edge can go is 11 to the Giants. I think the highest an edge will go is 17 to the Raiders. That's where I would put it. And I think it's Azeez Ojulari or Greg Rousseau are the two best edge rushers in the draft. I don't have a first round pick on any edge rusher.
Wow.
Yeah, none of these guys come out to me. They're all like high second round guys to me. And even like Kwity Paye, who's like really, really good, I think is the kind of guy that falls. I unless someone falls in love with them really early and they say, hey, we need to come out of here with it. I think at the end of the first, you're going to see a lot of teams taking edge rushers.
Those teams that can kind of afford to take a risk, a flyer on a player.
Yeah,
basically.
good teams and teams that really, really need it. Like, you should never draft for positional need because your needs today aren't your needs tomorrow. But at some time, it lines up well. Like, the Jets have 2 first-round picks. I could even see the Jags making a trade or, picking an edge or trading back down to take an extra edge. I could see someone trading up into the first to get one of the guys because there's only so many edge rushers in the NFL that are actually good edge rushers anyway. So it's tough. It's a crapshoot class, but there's a lot of guys that are kind of muddled together in that. That's what
I figured. I was seeing a lot about edges, and it seems like everybody has a different ranking for their top edge rusher, So anyone that tries to tell you that someone is, basically you're telling me anyone that tries to tell you that someone is head and shoulders above the rest doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, there's just no one here that's so clearly ahead of everyone.
All right, well, that wraps up Yeah Fam or Nah. You know what time it is. Let's hit that intro, baby.
I'm petty as hell. And I'm super petty. Here we Petty Le Pew.
Go. That's right. It is time for You Played Yourself, and we want to run through these a little quick so that we can get to these questions, these burning questions heading into the draft. We can pick your brain here, Thomas. So, first up, last episode talked about a potential jersey number rule change. That has since passed. So, you're going to see the NFL loosen up with their jersey numbers, potentially see a lot of players change their jerseys. I think we already reportedly saw the first one, Patrick Peterson, signed with the Vikings this past year. And he's going to go back to his college number 7. So ordinarily, previous years, that wouldn't be allowed as a corner. So he's the first, I think, that I've seen so far that is taking advantage of this rule and is going to wear a single-digit number as a corner, which was previously, I think, the lowest they could go is in the 20s. So, but the reason this is on You Played Yourself is because of a Mr. Tom Brady, old man Tom Brady, who was yelling at the clouds recently. He said the following on his Instagram story, quote, "Good luck trying to block the right people now. Going to make for a lot of bad football. Why not let the linemen wear whatever numbers they want to?" By the way, side note, they should let the linemen, let the big boys get the single digits. Never mind. Okay.
You're crazy.
Why not let the linemen wear whatever numbers they want to? Why have numbers? Just have colored jerseys. Why not wear the same number? Dumb. End quote. Oh, and he added NFL and NFLPA.
I like how he added the NFL. Like the social media intern's gonna be like, "All right, Goodell, I don't know, man, you fucked up."
Yeah, they're knocking on the commissioner's door like, "Hey, we got this tag from Tom Brady. It's time to act now."
He doesn't give a fuck.
I mean, you played yourself, Tom. Relax. I'm pretty sure you're going to be just fine recognizing schemes and scouting jersey numbers. It's going to be okay. They're not going to be switching jersey numbers mid-game. You'll get a program. You'll watch some film. It'll be okay. Read the room. Ain't nobody want to hear your complaints, Tom. You've won enough. And if it helps y'all not win, I'm all for it even more. You can sound it. Yes, you can.
I hope he goes back to back.
Petty alert.
I hope Tom Brady wins infinity championships. I hope we have 60-year-old. No, I hope we have like 60-year-old Tom Brady. When Tom Brady beats like Patrick Mahomes Jr. in the Super Bowl, I want him to retire. But until then, I just want him. It's so fun. I love a villain. I just love it. I love villains in every sport.
He's had such a likable offseason. This is like the first time where you're like, all right, come on, man. It's a fucking jersey number. You're going to be okay.
I know. He's just such like a fucking likable guy, but everyone hates him, and it's just so fun.
It's clear. It's because he's good, obviously.
Yeah.
Also, if you need more context on who else reportedly didn't love this rule change, Bill Belichick. Surprise, surprise.
Someone else I love. Man, I love everyone everybody hates. Like, I love these guys. Just curmudgeons ruining everyone's life. A Jets fan born 20 years ago is miserable because of two human beings. Like, I just love it. It's so good. And it's just so good. I love that Tom Brady hates this because it's just so on par for him to be like, how he shouldn't whine about a single thing. Like, his whole life is just, if you had to create a life, you would create Tom Brady's life. If you could choose anybody's life in the world, you'd be like, yes, I want to be born in California. I want to marry a supermodel. I want to win a bunch of Super Bowls.
Yeah, literally the only thing you wouldn't pick is the school he went to.
From the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
Yeah, and definitely not, like, I would not kiss my son on the mouth as much as he does. But
That too.
some, not none, but not as much as he does. It's just so funny that things get him mad. Like, I can't fathom a world where anything gets him mad.
Exactly. Like, he's grasping. Like, we were talking about aliens coming. That would be the life you'd point to. Be like, hey, look, we're doing pretty good. It'd be Tom Brady's. All right. Next up on You Played Yourself, the Brooklyn Villains, just because I can. They're still the villains of the NBA. You know, my cousin and I put them on You Played Yourself and even brought up them signing LaMarcus Aldridge, who has since retired. Did our episode cause him to retire? We can neither confirm nor deny that. No, I'm just kidding, obviously. He retired due to health reasons, so I'm glad he put his health and family first, sure. But they're still the Brooklyn Villains. Don't ever play yourselves. And sure, their big three has barely played together. Whatever. They are still the villains, and I just figured we needed, even though this is an NFL draft preview, it still needed to be noted here. You played yourself. I did want to cover, the last few years I've been big on seeing the Best Picture nominees for the Oscars, and the Oscars just aired. So I wanted to put the Oscars on You Played Yourself because everything was going great until the last three awards of the night, and especially the last one of the night. So Daniel Kaluuya won Best Supporting Actor for his role as Chairman Fred Hampton in Judas and the Black Messiah. Fantastic choice. Yoo Jung-yoon won Best Supporting Actress for amazing work as Soonja in Minari. Awesome choice. Soul won Best Animated Feature. The lock of the night. Everybody knew it was going to win, and it did. But then Best Picture went to Nomadland. Fine, I guess. It wasn't my favorite. I would have picked a number of other ones. Minari, Sound of Metal, Judas and the Black Messiah, just to name a few. Even The Father I thought was better than Nomadland, but it won Best Picture. And then Best Actress went to Frances McDormand, who was the star and producer of Nomadland. Also, okay, fine. I would have given it to Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Okay. That all sets itself up to the final award of the night. Yes, the Oscars the last past few years has saved the final award was Best Picture. This year, they set it to Best Lead Actor, the Oscar for Lead Actor, as the last award of the night, seemingly setting up like, you know, the late, great Chadwick Boseman winning to end the night, make for a great moment. Well, they gave the award to Anthony Hopkins, who did great in The Father, but there are levels to this, and You Played Yourself goes to the Oscar because the late, great Chadwick Boseman should have got Best Actor. He was unbelievable in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. He played the role of Levy Green, and just even the end was worth the Best Actor by itself. So You Played Yourself. Anthony Hopkins was great in The Father, but there was no denying that Chadwick Boseman should have won this award. He won pretty much every other award, and it sucks that arguably the most important one didn't go to him. So You Played Yourself, Oscars. It was going all great until the last three of the night. Did you watch any of those movies?
I do not watch any movies. Everyone
Thomas
at work today.
You number one podcast listeners. So Thomas notoriously hates every movie.
Yeah, movies are so dumb unless Adam Sandler's in them. Like, it's just, they're only good when Adam Sandler's convincing a girl out of his league to date him, even though he's like a loser. Like, my favorite film genre is Adam Sandler. Like, I can't even
put that on the clip, baby.
Yeah, there's good movies. Like, and obviously I do think Chadwick Boseman should have won, and I think he should have won if he was alive. Like, I don't think it was just like, that's
great
what hurt.
Point. Great point. Yeah, it wasn't just because he passed away that he should have won that. He honestly, it was the best performance in my opinion.
He just should have won it. Like, that's where I.
There's a reason he won every other one.
Yeah, it was. I think they almost didn't give it to him because they didn't want to look like they were giving him a moment, which is like even dumber than just give him a fucking moment. But I can't even speak to movies.
Speaking of dumb, this last one takes the cake, and I wanted to save it for last because it truly was maybe one of the most idiotic, maybe one of the worst tweets of all time. You Played Yourself goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. So following the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin being convicted of murdering George Floyd, obviously it dominated news for days and still is, rightfully so. But the Las Vegas Raiders, they tweeted a graphic saying, "I can breathe," with the date where the verdict came in, which was April 20th, 2021. They really tweeted the words "I can breathe" in a big-ass visual, pinned it to the top of their timeline. Somehow this was approved by everyone in the organization, top to bottom. And then when they got backlash, which rightfully so, I mean, it sounds crazy that I even said it out loud that they put that. They didn't take it down. So I found this from one of the Athletics beat writers. He's a Raiders beat writer. His name's Tashawn Reed. So he said the following: Raiders owner Mark Davis said the, quote, "I can breathe" wording came from George Floyd's brother, Philonis, who said, quote, "Today we are able to breathe again," end quote. So Davis later added, "If I offended the family, then I'm deeply, deeply disappointed." Davis also said he wasn't aware that NYPD supporters wore "I Can Breathe" shirts following the 2014 killing of Eric Garner. And after the Raiders beat writer Tashawn Reed brought that up to him, he said, quote, "I learned something. I have to do a little bit more research into that just so I can speak coherently on that aspect. See where there would be some negativity towards what I said based on that." Then said, quote, "I will not delete it. I could unpin it and let it run its course. It's already out there. I rarely post stuff, but I'm not into erasing something. It's not an apology. I'm not embarrassed by what I said, but I did learn something now," end quote. What in the flying fuck? What is that explanation? Like, oh, it's already out there, so I can't delete it? Yes, the fuck you can. You can say, "Hey, I fucked up. We're taking this down," especially after it was explained to you. Sure, you might not have realized NYPD supporters wore that same phrase on a shirt, but you learned it, so fucking act on it. I don't understand what's so complicated about deleting a tweet that was fucked up.
Maybe the worst tweet of all time. Maybe the worst. Well, I said it right away. I said, this is probably the worst tweet of all time. And there's some heinous tweets. There's some bad tweets.
Ones. Yeah.
This was just so tone deaf because it's like, I don't think anyone thinks Mark Davis is a racist, but it's just, have you ever seen somebody miss the mark so wide?
Yeah, I just don't get the concept of, okay, so you want to claim ignorance, but then someone flat out explained it to you and you still are saying, "I won't delete it." I can't fathom not only starting it off so stupid, but then being too stubborn to admit you're stupid. That's a new level. That's a new fucking level.
I'm gonna unravel this a little bit, and this is very serious, so I'm not making a joke of it, and I'm not making light of it. I want that on the record. But Mark Davis did not fire up Photoshop. He didn't pull out his phone and post that image. Someone along the way didn't stop him from tweeting what is the worst tweet ever, and they should be fired. I do not care. Like, it's if my boss told me to tweet, like, if like some, in this situation, if he tweeted like, I can breathe, I'd be like, I'm actually out. You have two choices right now.
Yeah.
You can tweet that. This is your business. You can tweet that, or I'm not working here anymore, but I'm not tweeting that.
Yeah, you could tweet that, but you also shouldn't.
Yeah, someone should have stopped him. He didn't pull out Photoshop and make that.
There's no way.
And whoever's
this dude drove like
working,
a minivan for years, and he gives himself haircuts. There's no way he knows how to.
Whoever's doing the graphic stuff for the Raiders social is definitely not this out of touch. He might be racist. Yeah. He might be racist because no one saw that tweet and was like, I get this immediately. It was just one of those things that it just missed the mark so much. There's no way he was trying to hit the target.
Congratulations.
No way.
You played yourself.
Okay. On that note, one of the stupidest tweets of all time. Let's move on to who you got and what you feeling. And this who you got, like I mentioned at the top of the episode, is going to be pretty heavy. We're going to all of our draft burning questions, and we're going to pick your brain here, Thomas. So, but before we do that, I wanted to recap last episode's picks. My cousin and I went over who the 49ers should select at number 3 overall. Obviously, we said it should be Justin Fields. Well, technically, I said it should be Zach Wilson because Justin Fields should be the second best quarterback. But you know what I was trying to say.
Yes, I know that you were being an asshole.
That doesn't sound like me.
What it do, baby? Yeah.
And then we went over the two major draft trades that impacted the top 10. Those being San Francisco trading up to number 3 and the exchange of the 3 picks between San Francisco, Miami, and Philly. And we also discussed the Panthers trading for Sam Darnold and who we felt won the trade. Each of the trades, I felt like it was Miami with all the extra capital they picked up, and they're still going to end up getting their guy at number 6. And my cousin was saying San Francisco only if they take Justin Fields. So, you know that Justin Fields runs deep in that bot blood. So, and then we talked about the Panthers. I felt like the Panthers won the trade because it was very low risk for them to pick up Darnold. And it doesn't tie him to anyone just yet. And they weren't going to get their choice of guy, especially after San Francisco trade up to 3. So they might find themselves able to take one, or now that all of a sudden, that, like you said, they might find themselves the apple of some teams' eyes to try to trade up and get a quarterback. So they might get even more capital.
Yeah, and I like Darnold. I'm one of those guys that thinks that I don't think Darnold's great by any means, but I don't think he's unsalvageable. And that thing with him, and people say it all the time, like they make fun of him for saying he saw ghosts, but like I played quarterback. I threw the ball around. I've said some shit. Like I'm like, these guys are superheroes out there. Like you trust me, you say when you're getting destroyed like that, you go to your team and you're like, I am trying, guys. I am trying. Like, there's been times when I asked, I'm like, you guys want me to block for you? And everyone laughs. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm trying. So him saying he saw ghosts is him basically telling his team, this is on me. Like, I'm getting fucked up right now. And what you guys are doing is okay, And there's certain quarterbacks, I've grabbed the face mask of someone before and been like, hey, you're fucking up right now. But I've been on the other side where I'm just like, yo, I couldn't hit, a boat. I couldn't hit the ocean off a boat right now. Sorry, guys. But it wasn't broadcast to a national audience. So whoever the Jets guy was that picked that up, he's the one that should be chastised here.
And I also felt, like you said, you mentioned he's not unsalvageable. He's finally going to get a nice offense and some real skill players to work with. So this will be the true test if Sam Darnold really has it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it cost them very little, and he's younger. He's still super, super young.
Yep. Okay, the other thing I wanted to recap is you were here after the Super Bowl, and I picked your brain for some early draft analysis. So
yes, sir.
I wanted to kind of recap those heading into our current round so that we get a chance to kind of redo this heading into the draft actually happening this week, a couple months later. I asked you about your QB ranking and how you ranked Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, etc., and whether you had any dark horse QB prospects. At the time, you ranked them Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, Mac Jones, and then you had a big gap to Trey Lance.
Yep, it's still true. Nothing changed there. I think the only thing there is, even though I know there's a big gap between Jones and Trey Lance, I don't think that means Trey Lance is going to get drafted. A big gap after Mac Jones.
No,
so
sure doesn't seem that way.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think Trey Lance is going to get somebody fired.
Recent memory tells us people with not very much film and not very many starts don't really bode too well.
He threw less pass. I saw this the other day. He threw less passes to his third read. How many passes do you think Patrick Mahomes threw to his third read or less?
Shit, I don't know.
All right, I'll tell you right now. It was 51.
51. Okay.
Yeah, this year. That's third read or after that he's thrown that pass. That's quite a lot of passes are completed.
Right.
So 51 completions to those guys, which isn't, insane of a number, and that's Patrick Mahomes. He's the GOAT, and you got to remember, sometimes your slot guy's your first read, so it's not like that's just his third wideout. It's actually 1, 2, 3. They do this by actually tracking the eyes of the quarterback, so it's not, you can't tell always, because sometimes he's just looking someone off. You know how many passes like that Trey Lance has completed?
It's got to be low.
2.
Fucking 2?
2. He's completed 2 passes. To his third read.
I thought the narrative was that Fields couldn't get to his third read.
I know, and it's really, really rough. Trey Lance has actually thrown 2, and both of them were like dump-offs, and it was not great.
Bananas.
Yeah, it's not good. It's like there's a whole lot of parameters to it and stuff, but it's just not a great look for Trey Lance. I think that everything says about Justin Fields that they're wrong about, they're right about with Trey Lance.
Wow. Crazy and frustrating. A couple months ago, I asked you about your wide receiver ranking because obviously, and it's still this way, the top 3 receivers mentioned are Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle. You ranked him Chase, Smith, then Waddle. Is that still the same?
Yep, still the same. Nothing changed.
And I asked you where you would place Kyle Pitts in that, if he were a wide receiver or if we made it like a offensive weapon type category. I think at the time you said second behind Chase, but I think you since changed that to Pitts being 1. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think if we just go offensive weapon total, as wide receiver, he'd still be behind Chase, but I'd rather have Pitts as my tight end 1 than.
Got it. And then I asked you what your position locks were. So which positions have a clear top prospect? You mentioned Penei Sewell at offensive tackle, Micah Parsons at linebacker, Najee Harris at running back, and then obviously the Trevor Lawrence at quarterback.
Yeah, but he's not fun.
Yeah, of course. That's an obvious one. You have any positions to add to that?
I think Kyle Pitts at tight end.
Right.
He fits in there. There's a lot of obvious guys in this one. I will say that I am starting to think I watched all my tape. I have nothing more to watch, and I watch it while I'm at work. I watch it constantly. I just got it going. And I will say I think Trevor Lawrence is the highest floor of any quarterback prospect I've ever seen. It will take I don't know. He doesn't have the highest ceiling I've ever seen, but it will take so much to go wrong for him not to at least be a decent NFL quarterback that I think the Jaguars. This is their first overall pick, and they lucked into the easiest one. This is easier than Manning Leaf, because there was upside to other guys versus Leaf, and people were like, well, how do you pass on Manning? And it's very similar to that in sense of like, I'd rather pick Lawrence and be wrong because you know what I mean? It's just, you can't fuck this pick up.
Speaking of high floor, that's a nice little plug for you, my dude. So make sure you check out his draft, all his draft information, scouting, mock drafts.
I know it comes out on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, right before the draft. High floor.
Yeah.
Keep it in the front of your brain, not even the back of your brain. Don't ever play yourself.
Congratulations.
you played yourself.
It comes out with a nice printable too, because when I was a kid, I used to really like printing those things out, like having the magazine and watching the draft.
While you're watching TV, yeah.
Yeah, I created one of those nice little guys, and like you could fill in your own mock draft and stuff. It's cool.
It's perfect then. We got you at the perfect time.
I know.
Okay, last but not least, I had you do a quick top 5 mock at the time. You obviously there are trades that happened, so you went Lawrence 1 to Jacksonville, Wilson 2 to Jets. At the time it was Miami. You had them taking Penei Sewell, Atlanta taking Kyle Pitts, and Cincinnati taking Jamar Chase at number 5. So we'll get a chance to do. I'm actually going to ask you your top 10 mock here in a second, but I just wanted to give a little recap of 2 months ago and see how things change. All right, so without further ado, we got a lot to get to. So first up, I wanted to. We already went over your QB ranking. Nothing has changed. You said it was Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, Jones. A little gap, big gap. Then Trey Lance.
Yeah, big gap.
Has the dark horse QB prospect changed before? Nope. Okay, so you brought up Peyton Ramsey out of Northwestern. Yep. It's still your guy.
I think every year I'm going to start calling this like a Tom Brady prospect. Do I think he's going to end up being Tom Brady? No. But gun to my head, if someone said who's the Tom Brady from this draft, I'd say Peyton Ramsey.
All right, we already went over wide receivers and offensive weapons.
Yep. And
our position locks. You added Pitts, tight end, which is obviously.
Yeah.
Should have included that one. But okay. I gathered some questions from our number one podcast listeners. It's kind of our first time doing this, but I wanted to open up this as a possibility going forward for you number one podcast listeners. So if you ever have a question that you want to hear, obviously it won't always be draft related, but anything you want answered, you can fire it our way. You know how to get at me on social media. I posted to each episode in the description. You can also hit us up at Prem Brulee podcast at gmail.com. So send questions my way, and I'll feature you number one podcast listeners on the number one podcast in your headphones. So you would love to see that. So first question I got for you, Thomas.
All right.
This is from Jeff in Pennsylvania. He said, who is your player with the lowest floor and then lowest floor and highest ceiling? Do you have a prospect like that?
Yeah, I'm going to go high ceiling first, though. I do think it's Kyle Pitts. I just think he's so rare as a prospect. He's in that blue chip realm. I think if anyone in this draft is likely to be the best player at their position of all time, when it's all said and done, Kyle Pitts has the best chance to do that. So that gives him highest ceiling. And lowest floor is Jalen Phillips, the edge rusher out of Miami. He was forced to medically retire in his collegiate career. There's a real chance when you draft this guy, you get 0 snaps out of him. Wow. There's a real non-zero chance that you're going to spend a high pick on Jalen Phillips, and he's going to play 2 games in his entire career. So he's definitely my lowest floor, and has nothing to do with his ability because he's a great player. But being forced to medically retire, I would take him off my board entirely. I wouldn't pick him before. I think the 6th and 7th round are basically just fun.
Yeah.
If a GM is telling you that he has scouted 230 guys, he's flat out lying to you. It's not relevant to some of these guys. You know what I mean? Like, the Chiefs just don't have to look at quarterbacks. It doesn't matter. They just don't. So there's a lot of these positions that just get completely washed over for them. The only guys like me, like actual, scouts and draft pundits, watch that many guys, and it's not real. Right. Like when I see like Pro Football Focus's top 300 players, I'm just like, this is insane. There's not 300 players worth drafting. Like, there's just not. It's why I only do a top 150 every year, and then I only do paragraphs on 150 guys. After that, it's words. Like, at some point, I'm just like,
you're just making up shit at that point.
Yeah. I'm just like, hey, look, I only watched 2 games of this guy's career. I watched his best game and his worst game. And if nothing pops to me, he just gets assigned like undraftable grade. And that's why I only have like 150 guys that are draftable.
It's not like we're paying attention to like 151 to 300 anyway. Unless you're like a fan of a college and you're like, oh, where's this guy? in your
Yeah,
ranking?
I mean, I actually love those rounds of the draft because it's like you get to see someone crazy fall, and you're like, I had a third round grade on this guy,
Right.
and no one else even thinks he's worth playing. But I will say that towards the end of the draft, I would take Jalen Phillips. I just think there's a real non-zero chance that he never plays professional football.
Wow. That is scary. Okay. This is from Matt in Georgia. He had a similar question, but reverse. So wanted your lowest ceiling and then your highest floor guy.
So my highest floor is Trevor Lawrence. That one's obvious. I do think Trevor Lawrence is like the most obvious high floor guy I've seen ever. Like I said, it would take so much for him to be bad. And I'm not even saying the Jags are going to be good with him, but he's not going to be the reason they're bad.
Right.
It would just take so much to go wrong because he throws with anticipation. He throws with touch. He's a little mobile. He's got a good arm. He places it well. He reads the field well. There's just a lot would have to go wrong for him. And I'm saying, like, if he has multiple shoulder surgeries, he's still an okay game manager. So it's like there's just a lot that has to go wrong with him. Lowest ceiling. So I'm going to take that as the worst good player in this draft. And give me Rashawn Slater. If I had gun to my head, I'd say Rashawn Slater ends up like, remember Robert Gallery years and years ago? I would say worst case scenario. I mean, they're not similar as how they play, but Robert Gallery was talked about being like a great tackle prospect. And he ended up just being like an okay guard.
Right.
But he was like a serviceable NFL player his whole career. And I think that's Rashawn Slater. It's similar to I don't think Rashawn Slater ever elevates to Quentin Nelson status. But I do think that if you draft Rashawn Slater, you're getting yourself a player who can play across the offensive line and play it well.
Okay, this is from Grant in Las Vegas. He said, or he asked, why is there so much hype around Mac Jones?
Who?
Can you make the case for him knowing full well that the number one podcast in your headphones is Team Fields? I added that last part in case you didn't know that.
I'm going to go ahead and say the reason there's hype around Mac Jones is he is a true distributor at quarterback. He takes the open guy every time. And he's not always trying to go for a home run. He takes what the defense gives him. People want to say he's like a really safe prospect, but like I said at the beginning of this, Kurt Warner was a true distributor type guy, and people look at the weapons he had in his career. He had, Holt and Bruce and Fitzgerald.
Two Hall of Famers.
Yeah, and Anquan Bolden.
Well, three.
Yeah, and Marshall Faulk. Like, the guy was surrounded by talent, and he still won two. He won 2 MVPs, I think. So, and he won a Super Bowl, and went to another. So just because he's surrounded by good talent doesn't mean that he's not going to take full advantage of it. And I think that Mac Jones is the kind of player that can take full advantage of the talent around you. There's rare guys like Rodgers who make you good. You run the route, Rodgers is going to put the ball on you. He's going to throw you open. Whereas Mac Jones is going to let you get open and put it where you want it. You know what I mean? Like, Mac Jones isn't dictating that offense. Mac Jones is taking what the defense gives him and making the right play. And Mac Jones has no real flaw in his game except mobility. So that's where I'm at with Mac Jones. Is if I had to make a case for Mac Jones over Justin Fields, it's that Justin Fields takes the game and puts it in his hands, and Mac Jones lets the game come to him.
All that being said, Team Justin Fields, baby.
Yeah, Team Justin Fields. But that's my case.
Okay, this was a similar question. This is from David from here in Ohio. He said, why would the Niners trade up to 3 for not the third best quarterback technically?
Yeah.
And especially, this is related to Mac Jones, he wasn't projected this high until recent hype.
The Niners traded up to 3 because they needed a quarterback. They wanted to be in the position to get the quarterback they wanted. I don't think they traded up to 3 with a guy in mind. I think they traded up to 3 with 3 guys in mind and wanted to control their destiny. That's it. It's that simple. I think that they didn't want to take whoever was left over. They wanted to be like, okay, let's imagine this draft does not contain Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson, and we have the first overall pick. Who are we taking? Are any of these guys worth the first overall pick? And if they said, yes, I think that Justin Fields would be, he would go number one in next year's draft, because next year's draft, I think there's 2 good quarterbacks in next year's draft. There's 3, and who knows how it'll shake out. But that's where I'm at. I think they traded up to control their destiny. They wanted to be able to scout the quarterbacks and make their decision and not panic at the draft.
So just curious, who are the two? The Howell from UNC is one?
Yeah, and Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. And I like Kevon Slavis, too, from USC. But I think Slavis needs to grow. But Desmond Ridder, I think, is pretty good. I think he's actually going to get Zach Wilson hype and just randomly jump up people's boards, and they're going to be like, should he go 1 over Howell?
I could see that.
Remember Jake Locker was like the first overall pick?
Oh, yeah, and then he went back to school.
Then he went back, and like the Sam Bradford was then the first overall pick. I think we could see Sam Howell do that in terms of like, we all think he's going to be the first overall pick, but he's not a sure thing prospect. He could have a bad year, want to return, or he could have a bad year and fall, and I think Desmond Ridder would be the guy to pick that up.
All right. Little early 2022 draft prospect.
Yeah, let's start our mock drafts.
Okay, Zach, also from Ohio, wants to know about Micah Parsons' potential fall. If he's a top prospect, why isn't he going earlier than projected, late top 10 / mid first? Also wanted to get your little. I added this part in. Shout out to my brother Vish who sent me this, but the over under for Micah Parsons being selected is at pick 12.5. So what are you taking over under, and what's with Micah Parsons' potential fall?
I'm going to take the over. The potential fall is because there's no good linebackers in the NFL. There just aren't. The entire RPOs, all this stuff you're seeing offenses do, is to fuck with linebackers. That's all it is. It's just to misdirect linebackers. Linebacker went from the easiest position. You were just some big 280-pound motherfucker, and you were like, I'm running downfield and I'm smacking. My job is to smack Jerome Bettis. Like that was their job. They had to stop Corey Dillon's, Eddie George's. Like that was their job. And now all of a sudden they have to stop Christian McCaffrey's and Alvin Kamara's. And oh shit, look at that. Now it's not just Vic running around back there, So there's just no good linebackers. There's 3 actually good historically linebackers in the NFL right now, and it's Levante David, Bobby Wagner. And you can maybe make the case for Fred Warner right now in San Francisco. So that's what Micah Parsons would fall, because basically a team would say linebackers are all trash. And everyone just saw what Devin White did in the Super Bowl. And that's what a good linebacker game does. It literally wins you championships right now. If you have a linebacker that's locked in, you can win a championship. But
Do you think Parsons fits that mold? Like all his measurables, the speed seem to fit that kind of mold.
If he falls, it's because teams are saying none of these guys end up good, so they're just not worth taking this high. If he gets picked, it's because someone says, I think our team around him is very good, and he could spark plug us and win us 1 or 2 games just based on having an advantage at linebacker. If you end up with a Bobby Wagner, you end up with a huge advantage. Like, look at what Darius Leonard does for the Colts. Like, you end up with a huge advantage.
So you're thinking he goes 13th or later?
No. I'm sorry. I'm taking the under on that then. Yeah,
the under. Okay.
Yeah, I said over. I think I meant like he goes before that. I have him going at 11 to the Giants.
Okay.
Which is that's Micah Parsons is the one pick in that draft where if you told me he went 7, I'd believe you. Or if you told me he went in the 2nd round, I'd be like, yeah, I get it. Like I wouldn't take a linebacker.
This is from Robert. He said he wanted to know which teams can best afford to go best player available, and when is it okay for a team to use that strategy even when they have a need? This is special, near and dear to my heart. Of course, last year the Dallas Cowboys took a luxury pick in CeeDee Lamb since he fell further while having other needs. So when's it okay to do that versus not? And which teams can use the best player available strategy?
Every single team should be taking best player available unless they need a quarterback. That's it, bar none. There's no other discussion. Do you think the Falcons really need a tight end? No, but Kyle Pitts is the best player available. The Dolphins, they could go Sewell, who I think is probably the next best player available, and that'd be a smart pick for them. You know, I would go Sewell. I wouldn't take Chase if I were them, but I would always go best player available. Teams don't do it. Your needs today are just not your needs tomorrow. Like, it's crazy. Look at the turnover in some of these drafts. You know, rookie guys want to get signed. Do the Bucs need a wide receiver? No, right? They just don't need a wideout. But guess what? They got to re-sign Chris Godwin coming up. You know, Mike Evans just got signed. He might have to get traded with their cap situation. And once say one of them gets hurt, you know, and that's why you always just go best player available, and good coaches and good teams make that fit. I think the best drafting team in the NFL is the Ravens, and they've always gone best player available. Always. Except the only exception to that rule is when you need a quarterback. Step one.
And they traded up and got him.
Yeah, step one of drafting is, do we need a quarterback? If the answer is yes, okay, let's take one. It's never anything else.
I dig that. Okay, Kevin in Nashville is wondering, where does Justin Fields end up if he doesn't go number 3?
New England.
New England.
That'd be my bet. New England's going to trade up for him. They could trade up to 7, 8, 9, 4, honestly. I could see the Falcons at 4 taking Fields if Fields falls, but I don't think they will, just because they're stuck to Matt Ryan for 2 more years. So I don't know, but I think New England just goes up and gets them. They just put their eggs in their basket and they say, you know what? If he can't make the 3rd read, and it's true, we have the perfect guy for him to watch for a year in Cam Newton. Yep. You know, we have the perfect guy for him to watch for the offseason in Cam Newton. And Cam always gets banged up anyway. At some point, you're going to be putting in Justin. It's just like Ryan Fitzpatrick last year. They didn't have to rush to put Tua in because at some point, they were going to have to put Tua in. You knew it was going to happen,
yeah.
Yeah, so it was just, you might as well wait for it to happen. But I don't know. I don't see Justin Fields falling that far just because, you know, there's 5 really good quarterbacks in this draft and everybody wants them. The lowest I could see him go, absolute lowest, is 9. That's his bottom floor.
Okay, AJ, also Nashville, was wondering if Fields does fall, what would be the best place for him? I know you just covered where does he end up, but what would be the best place or fit for him?
If he falls, I'm going to go ahead and say Denver. I would really like for them to take him just because that offense is low-key stacked.
Right.
It's really, really good. Maybe, obviously, if I could just put him on, if you're telling me Justin Fields falls forever, and I could put him on any team I want to, what team am I going to put him on? I'm going to put him on the football team. But I don't think that he makes it that far, and I think Denver's the best realistic fit.
All right. AJ also want to know who turns out to be the best running back out of the draft. Obviously, Najee Harris is ranked at the top, but
it's Najee Harris.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that he's a little worse than Derrick Henry, and you got to remember coming out, I was really high on Derrick Henry, so it feels good to be proven right. But I will say I think Najee Harris is closer to Derrick Henry than he is, you know, Sony Michel. Or like one of those other running backs that have come out and just not been that great.
Jeff was wondering what Atlanta will do at number 4. I know you covered maybe them getting Fields, if not Pitts. Should they get a quarterback to sit behind Matt Ryan or a win-now contributor like Pitts?
No, it would be dumb to draft a quarterback. We're in the era of winning Super Bowls when someone's on their rookie deal. or all the way at the tail end, and they're Tom Brady taking discounts. No one wins in their giant contract years, so they'd be dumb to burn 2 of those years and make them sit behind Matt Ryan. They should, and they don't even have to worry about getting a quarterback next year because they'd be anchored to Matt Ryan again. So the Falcons have basically 2 years of a buffer where they can not address the quarterback situation before they need to. And then realistically, they have a 3rd year where they can roll with whoever they want and try to get the top guy and pseudo tank for that pick.
Yeah, true.
So I'm taking Pitts or, Sewell, honestly.
All right. Jeff also wanted to know who will be the first non-QB taken. Will be Pitts, Sewell, Slater. Pitts? All right.
Pitts. Thank you, Jeff, for all the Kyle Pitts questions.
So, keeping with the theme here, I tried to group these. Sam from Nashville wants to know if Kyle Pitts is actually a generational NFL talent. I think you touched on it a little earlier, especially since the Falcons have other pressing needs on defense.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts is actually a generational talent. I think he's more like Megatron than he is George Kittle or Tony Gonzalez. He's just so unique. I think that anyone saying, just honestly, and I don't suggest people do this, but when people just hear media hype and they can't click it together, go on YouTube and type in highlights, and you'll just see Kyle Trask did not throw a lot of good footballs to Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts, it didn't matter. If he could get his hands on it, his hands were on it. He always elbowed himself in a good position. He always caught with his hands. He always brought it into his body. He always dove for every pass he could. There was zero quit in him, and those are the kind of guys that turn into... He's Larry Fitzgerald as a tight end, as a good way to put it. You're getting 100% from Kyle Pitts every down, and he's a freak. So
you're getting me fired up. All of a sudden, I'm gonna fuck around and say the Cowboys should trade up and get him.
I love Kyle Pitts. I will say he's one of the guys that I'm just you watch him play, and you're like, that's a motherfucking football player. That's what every single kid growing up should be watching. Kyle, you know how George Kittle's a psycho, and people are like, he's a psycho. Kyle Pitts is a psycho. He's just not funny. Like George Kittle's
Exactly.
George Kittle's funny, so you see him take his face and he dances and shit. Kyle Pitts, it could be 3rd and long. There was a play, I forget who Florida played, but it was I think it was Alabama, and it was 3rd and long or 2nd and long, and Kyle Trask threw a really, really bad throw to Kyle Pitts, really short, and Kyle Pitts bailed out for it, tried to get it, dove, hand to the ground, took a hard hit from the turf, and it was a useless pass. And Kyle Pitts there's no quitting him. And those guys, they say intangibles, you can't quantify it, but you can look at his stats. There's a reason he absolutely was.
Wow. You're getting me fired up about Kyle Pitts. I gotta tell
Let's
you.
run through a wall. Let's run through a wall, baby.
Sam also asked, who even is Mac Jones? And I'm gonna let Snoop handle that one.
Who?
Okay. This comes from DC. Matt and Rachel had a question about the Washington football team. What should Washington do with their pick? Is Fitzmagic their temporary answer? Should they draft a QB where they're sitting? And even though they won their division with such a poor record, should teams still be penalized and be late in the draft order for doing so?
You should be penalized, I guess, in the draft order. You had a chance to win the Super Bowl.
I agree with that.
Yep.
Because you got a playoff spot out of it. Yeah. If you're gonna change it to division winners don't automatically get in, then we could talk about rearranging the order.
100%. And I don't think a division winner should automatically get in, but I understand why they do it. They do it so that way one media market is always represented, hypothetically. But should they take a quarterback? I don't think one's going to be there. That they shouldn't trade up for one. There's JOK. They actually need linebacker help. They have quite possibly. This is, what one of my coaches used to say to me, and I'm going to borrow it from him. So thank you, coach. But they have a nickname defense, he called it. And it was when a unit becomes so good, they get a nickname. And right now they have a nickname pass rush. We don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
We have no idea. But they're going to have a... You know how we talk about the steel curtain and the purple people eaters, the fearsome foursome, the New York sack
Doomsday
exchange?
defense.
Yeah. All those great defenses. I think football team is going to have a nickname
They have
defense.
to, right?
Yeah. So, and honestly, those Ravens never got a nickname defense, but they should have. And I think we're really close to seeing those Ravens teams replicated. And they're one stud defensive player away from people being like, how the fuck did they get this guy? I think if Mac Jones falls, and I actually do think he's the most likely one to fall, they should trade up and get him. I have absolutely zero qualms saying that. I think that Fitzpatrick's fine and Heineke's fine, but if they can get themselves a Mac Jones, who would be the perfect quarterback for that kind of defense, they should take every opportunity for it. And that's the way, when I mock draft, I kind of go, this is what they should do. My mock draft isn't so much a guess as it is this is the ideal situation for each and every individual team.
Yeah, in your mock draft, just for you number one podcast listeners, you did have Mac Jones falling to them at 15. And
they traded
would
up.
have traded up to 15, yeah.
Yeah, I think I had the Panthers trade down twice because the Panthers traded with the Pats, and then they traded again.
Got it.
So good for they're recouping those Sam Darnold picks.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. I submitted this one. I know a few Packers fans, and I was surprised when I didn't get this question, but I wanted to ask you, will the Packers finally draft a wide receiver in the first round? I'm thinking like Rashad Bateman, Kadarius Toney area of the end of the first round. Will they finally do it this year?
Yeah, I'm going to say that they take Toney.
Okay.
That would be my guess. This is the year they take one. They need that Randall Cobb type of guy. They need someone to let, Devontae Adams run the full route tree. So I would say, yeah, this is the year they take one, and I think it's...
All right, this is from Sonny in Washington. He said, who are your candidates to be draft busts? Who's your sleeper for round one? And do you have a sleeper for outside of round one?
Wow, this is a really, really good question. My sleeper for outside of round one is Pete Werner. I think he's
go Bucks.
I knew it. I wish it was somebody else, but it's Pete Werner. I think he's a really, really, really good linebacker prospect, and he's not getting enough credit. And I don't know if that's again because linebackers are kind of losing value because nobody's really being that great of a linebacker. Right. My sleeper for round one, as in a guy I think people will be like, how did he not go top 5? Rashad Bateman, I think, might end up a way better wide receiver than people think. He's just a wideout with zero weakness to his game. So I think that he's the guy. He's the Justin Jefferson of this year's class, so to speak, where they're like, how did 4 wideouts or 3 wideouts go before him? He's so good.
Okay.
And then my bust, I'm going to put Trey Lance. I'm not going to put Jalen Phillips here because I don't think he's a bust. I think if you get hurt and you can't play anymore, I'm not qualifying you as a bust. You gave your all to the sport. It didn't work out. Your body broke down. I think Trey Lance will get somebody fired. I would hate to see it be Bill Belichick. I almost put him there to the Pats because that's the safest spot for him. Because he will not get them fired. And even if Belichick retired, even if they're bad in 3 years and Belichick retires, Josh McDaniels can take over, have a year with them, see what they could do. But he's my biggest guy. If he doesn't land in a great situation for him, he's not worth drafting. A team that can't develop a quarterback, if they took Trey Lance, that's going to be a mess. He's going to be a total mess. I'd rather Sam Darnold right now than Trey Lance. I'd rather want the chance of rebuilding Sam Darnold versus rolling my dice on Trey Lance.
It's going to help Panthers fans feel better, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I got a another sleeper. Speaking of Buckeyes, I love Jonathan Cooper. He's actually from the town I actually live in Columbus, but he was a very good defensive lineman, and I really like his game. I think he could be like a plug and play rotational guy, so I think he could be a really good defensive lineman in the league.
There's a lot of guys at the end of this draft that I'm like, these guys could play in the NFL. Like Tamarion Terry from Florida State. I don't think he's going before the 7th round, and I think that he could be a very serviceable wide receiver in the league.
Okay, so those are the questions from the number one podcast listeners. I want to thank you, number one podcast listeners, for submitting those questions, and thanks for running through those with me, Thomas. Okay, so I had a few more questions for you. I know I asked you one about the Packers, but a couple rapid-fire ones for you.
All right, let's go.
Best offensive prospect in the draft?
Trevor Lawrence.
If it's not Lawrence, who is it?
Kyle Pitts.
Okay. Who's the best defensive prospect?
Patrick Surtain Jr.
Please, Cowboys, please.
I know. I was like tempted to say Micah Parsons, but like I said, there's just such a low hit rate for linebackers right now.
What is the deepest position group in this draft?
Wide receiver.
Wide receiver.
And it was last year's deepest position too, which is what makes for such an interesting draft.
I feel like that's the way the league's heading, so it just seems to be going that way.
A lot of athletes that grow up are just playing wide out, and I have the Vikings taking Devonta Smith in my mock, just because, and they just took. But imagine that offense.
That'd be
like
bananas.
I can't imagine trying to guard Thielen, Devonta Smith, Dalvin Cook. And
you would have
Justin
a very
Jefferson.
Similar feeling that I had last year.
Yeah, with CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, adding CeeDee Lamb to even more so because you have two Pro Bowlers in Thielen and Jefferson, and
Dalvin
I feel
Cook.
And I feel like Gallup falls under the radar a little bit. Not that he's not good. Okay,
no, it's the same kind of concept though. How the Cowboys said, "I can't believe he fell. We have to take him." He's just that. You just take the best player available and make it work.
Make it nice and simple. Okay, the weakest position group in this draft. I know we went over. You said it was edge, right? Or is there another one?
I'm gonna say edge. I just don't think there's enough. Really, there's not one guy. Most drafts have one guy, and this draft has not so many good guys.
Okay. Give me a late first round player to watch.
Zaven Collins.
Out of Tulsa, right?
Yeah. So
he's a beast.
Yeah, he weighed in at 270, which is like an old school like linebacker. Like he's a thumper, and the league kind of goes in circles, and I think we're just starting to run the curve back to the other circle. Power running. Look at what Leonard Fournette did through the playoffs. Look at what Derrick Henry does every year.
Yeah.
And linebackers are so small, no one can stop Derrick Henry. There's like 3 guys in the NFL that athletically in an open field could actually stop Derrick Henry with momentum. And it's like Derwin James, Aaron Donald, and Myles Garrett, and that's it. And Zaven Collins actually can do that. So that is where I think Zaven Collins could be interesting, because if we turn this curve and he's in his prime 5 or 6 years from now and people are starting to get to power running to kind of combat the small linebackers that are out there now, you're going to see Zaven Collins absolutely wallop the shit out of people, because he's going to be the linebacker in his prime ahead of this curve.
And for your number one podcast listeners, Thomas, you have him going number 26 to the Browns.
Yeah,
which is
I do, actually.
By the way, I had this epiphany. I was talking to a Browns fan. It's like how far we've come that the Browns truly can go best player available. I mean, I know that's your strategy always, but they truly are in such a great position they can draft who at whatever position they need. They address so many of their needs in free agency. It is truly a luxury pick for them.
Well, the Browns were so bad for so long that they got sure things. They got Garrett. They rolled the dice on Baker. He was kind of a toss-up. I thought Baker would be good. He is pretty good. But, you get a couple hits in the draft, and all of a sudden you're not wasting first-round picks, and that's when...
my favorite position coach in the NFL, Bill Callahan.
Yeah.
Okay, now's the time. All those questions I threw at you, give us your top 10 mock draft. Hit us, I'm guessing, obviously, Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. Yep.
And the Jets, it's going to be Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
All right, who do you have at 3 for the Niners?
San Francisco takes Justin Fields. I just think that he's the guy worth taking at 3. Like I said, in a draft where Lawrence and Wilson don't exist, who is the first overall pick? It's Justin Fields.
Damn right. All right, Atlanta at number 4.
Kyle Pitts, tight end. I don't think that they need the tight end, but I do think that for them to get the best non-quarterback in the draft at 4 is pretty rare. Normally, I would say the best defensive player, but there's just no way they should take Surtain.
Right. If they're going defense, they should trade down, basically.
Yeah, I love Surtain. I don't think he's like a generational. Like I thought Myles Garrett, and I thought Chase Young. Those guys are the kind of guys that you put them on your defense, you can build around them. You can't build around Patrick Surtain. He's just going to, he can only stop one guy. He can't blow up a whole play.
All right, number 5, Cincinnati.
I have Cincinnati holding this pick hostage and trading it to Miami. I don't think they get a huge haul for it. I do think they call Miami and say, hey, we're between Sewell and Chase. If you want Chase, you have to give us a 4th-round pick or a 5th-round pick, something along the lines there. And then the Dolphins probably just say yes. If it's a 5th-round pick to get the best wideout, they do it. So I do have the Dolphins taking Chase at 5, and then the Bengals taking Sewell at 6. Alternately, if the Dolphins say no to this, I actually have the Dolphins taking Waddle instead of Devonta Smith. So I think Jalen, if they don't do the trade, I think the Bengals will take Chase out of spite, and the Dolphins will take Waddle. But as of my draft, I have Dolphins, Chase, Bengals, Sewell.
Okay. Number 7, Lions.
Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern. Dan Campbell said he's a kneecap-eating motherfucker. He's just nasty, so he's got to be going trenches. There's no defensive line guy worth taking here. I could even see, and this is a super hot take, but Tevin Jenkins going all the way up here at 7 to the Lions because I think they just want to be nasty.
Okay, 8 is Carolina.
I have them trading back to 15. They pick up the Pats' 2nd-round pick, and they get Trey Lance. The Pats take Trey Lance here, and I think it's a great spot for them. Just like Justin Fields could learn behind Cam, Trey Lance can learn behind Cam. Cam will get hurt. Trey Lance can come in. McDaniels is a quarterback guy. That's a good fit for them, and the Patriots walk away with a plan at quarterback.
All right. Number 9, Broncos.
So sorry, Premal. I have them taking Patrick Surtain.
No, don't do this.
I do think that the Broncos take Surtain because they need a corner. They know how important coverage sacks are, and they've got a great defensive front already. I think it's just a second too early to take Micah Parsons.
Denver.
And
Doesn't Micah sound great there, though?
No, there's no offensive guy for them worth taking here. All the quarterbacks besides Mac Jones are gone. I think in Drew Lock, you'd rather just roll the dice there than get somebody similar to him. Mac Jones is better than Drew Lock, but they're kind of similar in the sense of they just like to chuck the ball around kind of guys. They don't do a lot. If you could have gotten a Justin Fields here, they would take him, but they can't. So they're taking the best defensive player available in Patrick Surtain.
Okay, so who do you have my Cowboys taking at 10? Surtain is gone.
J.C. Horn. So it's not like I'm leaving you completely empty-handed. J.C. Horn, he's not the best fit, but we've seen teams take guys that aren't a great fit and kind of square peg them in the round hole, and it works out anyway because the guy's just good. And I think worst-case scenario, JC Horn learns to play some cover 3, and it's not like he can't do it. It's just not his strong point. But guess what? If he does the first couple of years of his career, then you get a new regime in there, which I think you will, because Mike McCarthy was a horrible, horrible hire. But you'll get a new regime in there, and now you have this well-rounded cornerback who has more Jalen Ramsey in him than people realize.
Love that. All right, we'll take that. You redeemed yourself there. Okay. That wraps up a longer edition of Who You Got with our draft guru here, Thomas.
That's me.
Again, all the draft information's coming out Wednesday. High floor. Keep it in the front of your brain, not the back. Don't ever play yourself. Okay.
Right in front of your mom's birthday. Just high floor, and then your mom's birthday.
Get it. Okay. So, what you feeling, man? What you been feeling lately? Besides finishing your draft stuff.
How political are we allowed to get? I get a little political.
This is a spicy place, man.
Okay. I'm feeling the economy, and it feels so fucking funny. It's just so... crypto sucks right now, but I knew crypto was going to suck when Joe Biden came in. And it's just great to see that people are spending their money, and they don't even have it. No one has it. We're all still buying fucking random shit. We're all still finding... We didn't stop going out to eat. We just started bringing the food to us. Like, you know what I mean? People were like, oh, yeah, all these bars are going to go out of business. I've eaten out more. Like, I've ordered more food in quarantine than I have when I could go anywhere and eat. Because it was a hassle. My favorite restaurants, I used to go to them like an idiot, and now they come to me like a genius. So I'm just loving the economy. I think it's the highest. The stock exchange is doing better in the first 100 days under Biden than like any other president in history. So we're seeing a huge rebound. There was a really big chance we slipped into a very horrible depression. After this, I still think we might, because the cost of goods is really high. Like, I don't know if you follow wood prices at all, but so wood and metal is like very good way to tell how the country's doing financially, because it's basically a big foundation of every big thing we build is either wood or metal, and both are crazy, crazy expensive, which is why the housing market is crazy expensive. But because people are saying, fuck it, I'm not going to drop this $20K on a house right now. I'm going to eat out every night this year and just start saving again. So it's fun to see the economy do well in a time when everyone thought this is horrible and we're going to segue to the end. And you know what? I'm also feeling that guilty verdict.
You're goddamn right.
He murdered somebody on camera. It's like the weirdest thing ever that in my heart of hearts, I was like, is he going to be guilty, though?
Yeah.
Just like
fucking crazy.
Any other situation, I'm like, that guy murdered somebody on camera. Yeah. There's no way for him to get out of this.
There's visual proof. We can see it.
They caught him in 4K. Like, it's literally, they caught him in 4K.
A fucking men to that. Definitely feeling that guilty verdict.
What about you? What are you feeling?
I'm feeling getting my second vaccine dose. I'm in 5G right now, baby. Just kidding.
My search engine preference is set to Bing now.
It's crazy. It's wild. But being in public health, it is amazing. I know how much hard work went in behind the scenes, front of the scenes, all that stuff. So great sense of pride after getting it. And I'm almost officially vaccinated, waiting my 2 weeks post-vaccine dose. But the other thing I'm looking forward to is heading up to Cleveland for the first round of the NFL draft with some friends. Get at you, boy. If you got a plug to the main stage, just hit me up. You know where to find me. But I'm pumped to be going up there. It's in Ohio this year, so we figured since we were vaccinated, it was a good opportunity to go up with some friends. We always talked about getting to be where the draft was, and we finally get that opportunity.
That's awesome, man. Congrats. Like that's pretty good.
It's good times. I'm gonna have my draft material from High Floor with me, so that
hey, walking around with your printout.
I can win any drinking bets that me and friends have.
I'm just here to help you win bets.
My guy. All right, let's hit that too much sense before we wrap this episode up. Okay, you number one podcast listeners. So are you the type that love being by yourself, or maybe you thrive on being in someone else's company? Me personally, I'm someone who loves being with others, but I'm finding that's not always possible. See a pandemic. So even though I have an amazing wife, for example, there are times where she's out or out of town at work. It's important for me to conquer enjoying time just by myself. So if you're someone that is already good at being solo, go conquer enjoying yourself with some company. There's beauty in conquering and accepting what you're not good at. So my plea to you is to go try to conquer that and go try to be good at both things.
Unfortunately, I'm good at everything. I usually like when I can heed advice.
There's nothing this guy can't do.
I'm just too good at everything.
That's a whole vibe. That's a whole vibe for you number one podcast listeners too. You guys are too good at everything. Don't let anybody tell you you're not. All right, that's going to do it for our NFL Draft Preview edition of the number one podcast in your headphones, Prem Brulee. Thomas, I want to thank you for joining me and answering all these burning questions heading into the 2021 NFL Draft. Appreciate all your knowledge, man.
Thanks. I'm always happy to be here, man. Always good to be on this podcast. Love for the fans.
Amen. For the number one podcast listeners, anything for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and hopefully you enjoy this content heading into the draft, and we will talk to you on the next edition.